So our theme this month, starting in December, is oneness. And my topic today, what if I don't want to be one with them? No, it's probably more like, what if I don't want to be one with them? It's probably more like that. Now, I know that thought has never crossed your mind. Maybe you saw it on a movie or something like that. But I actually want to start off with the reading. I want to do the reading again so that it's captured in the sermon, because that's what hits the airways. And I want to say thank you again to all of you Facebookers who are liking it and sharing it. We're getting thousands of views now on our sermons, and it's because of you passing it around. This is actually one of my favorite little essays from Dr. Howard Thurman, and it's called More Loving in My Heart. I want to say just a little bit about Thurman. Some of you have heard this before, but he also is one of my go-to people. You know, it's like in that midnight hour, who is it that I go to? He was a theologian. He was a student with King Sr. at Morehouse College. They were classmates. He was like an uncle to King Jr. He was the first African American to ever head up a major seminary in the United States. He was over Boston Seminary, Boston U, which King Jr. got his PhD, his doctorate of divinity from. And he was one of the people who brought the nonviolent techniques from Gandhi in India to the United States civil rights movement. He's considered the father, really, of the civil rights movement, and he started the first interracial church in San Francisco in 1948. His work is just really, really deep, and I highly, highly recommend that you go online. My friend Reverend Liza Ranco and some people put together this beautiful series put out by Sounds True of his works, and hearing his voice, it's all that. It's really all that. This is called More Loving in My Heart. It says, I want to be more loving. Often there are good and sufficient reasons for exercising what seems like a clear and direct resentment. Again and again, I find it hard to hold in check the sharp retort, the biting comeback, when it seems that someone has done violence to my self-respect and decent regard. How natural it is to give as good as I get, to take nothing lying down, and to announce to all and sundry in 1,000 ways, no one can run over me and get away with it. All of this is part of the thicket that my heart gets caught in again and again. Deep within me, I want to be more loving. To glow with a warmth that will take the chill off the room, which I share with those whose lives touch mine in the traffic of my goings and my comings. I want to be more loving. I want to be more loving in my heart. It is often easy to have the idea in mind, the plan to be more loving, to see it with my mind's eye and give it my assent to the thought of being loving. This is crystal clear. But I want to be more loving in my heart. I must feel like loving. I must ease the tension in my heart that ejects the sharp barb, the stinging word. I want to be more loving in my heart. That with unconscious awareness and deliberate intent, I shall be a kind and gracious human being. Thus, those who walk the way with me may find it easier to love, to be gracious because of the love of God, which is increasingly expressing in my living. I want to be more loving in my heart. Breathe that in. Our theme is oneness. This loving that I am talking about, I'm talking about the agapeo love. It is a choice. It is a direction of the will. It is not simply an emotion. This is a soul force. This is an energetic field. This is a vibration. This is a power in the universe. What love does is unifies. Catch that. Love is the force field that unifies. It is the oneness. The agapeo love is the choice love. See, there are a lot of different kinds of love. The English language only has one word for it. But in Greek, which is the language of the New Testament, there are many different words. There's eros love, that's erotic love. There's platonic love. There's phileo love, which is the friendship or the kinship love, because you have something in common. This is the oneness love, not because we have something in common, but in spite of the fact that I think we don't have anything in common. Check the difference in that. Not I love you because I like you. I love you because you reflect me. I love you because we have something in common. I know that I am one with you in spite of that. And I will not allow the fact that I can't see it, don't feel it, to stop me or to blind me from knowing that we are one with each other anyway. That's the kind of love that we're talking about. See, and for most of us, we don't want to go there until we feel it. Go there, then you'll feel it. Listen to what I said. This is true with all the spiritual qualities. We want to wait till we see the expression of it to feel it. Start acting as if, start choosing it, start moving it in that direction, and then you'll feel it. See, if you're grossly overweight, you ain't going to feel like exercising. It's not happening. Because if you felt it, you wouldn't be grossly overweight. This is not a criticism. This is just how it works. Start working out, and then you'll feel it. You haven't been eating healthy, you're not going to feel like eating healthy. You're not going to feel it. But when you start doing something long enough, what happens? You get in with the swing of it. And then something kicks in. Where if you keep going down that path long enough, not only does it start to feel natural and normal, but after a while you won't be able to go back. There is like a hum in the room, and I am trying really hard to not have it throw me off, but it is. Maybe knock out the monitors or something here. I'm like so finely tuned, and especially like moments like this, and I'm like, You have to choose it. You have to want it. You can't wait for it to come upon you. It is not going to ride in on the wings of inevitability, as King would say. You must choose it. The plan can be clear. The desire can be clear. But it's when the rubber hits the road, will you choose it? The holidays are coming up. You're going to have a lot of opportunity. It's already started. You know, we're in between Thanksgiving, you know, and the year. You have a lot of opportunities. Oh, let's just throw the election in on top of it. You have a lot of opportunities. What if I don't want to be one with them? But what is that really saying? You either believe in oneness or you don't. You believe in oneness or you don't. You believe it or you don't. And if you don't, trying to get to the gates. If you don't believe it, it is better to acknowledge that and say, I want to believe it, and I'm going to try to move in that direction. Because if you keep telling yourself, I really believe it, but you don't, you're not going to take the corrective measures to get there. So it's better to just acknowledge, I ain't there yet, Rev. I'm just not there. Then we can help you get there. But if you're so busy, oh, well, I'm already there. I don't have any problems. It's like that rap song I wrote years ago. You know, well, I love humanity. It's people I don't like. You believe it or you don't. And this oneness is all pervasive. It's not just about people. When I look back at the consciousness, this echo is really bothering me, I'm sorry. When you look back at the consciousness out of which this nation was built, it becomes so clear in the ways in which we never had the foundation of oneness. Now, I've been talking about that politically, but I want to talk about it theologically now. And I'm not saying that it's the truth, I'm saying it's the interpretation that we have put on the scriptures. I'm not saying that's what it says, but it is the way that we have interpreted it. So we have interpreted the scriptures in such a way as to say that there's this big God, and that God has created man, literally man, in its image and likeness, and made man over everything as some separate and distinct individual. That's how we have interpreted the scriptures. If we go back to Genesis, and it talks about the 7 days, and in this day, God created this and God created that. That word day doesn't mean 24 hours. It literally means like within an age, like an ice age, a stone age. It's like a whole age. And it does a progression about what gets created when. And if you just look at it, it's evolution. It's so plain. You've got the earth, you have the creatures that are coming out of the water first, you've got the crawly creatures, you have the plants, you have the hoofed animals, and you've got human being last. Duh! I still don't get, like, what is the debate between the creationists and the evolutionists? Like, what exactly is the debate? But the problem here is that when we have interpreted it as this day, we haven't looked at it as successive. We haven't looked at it as evolutionary. As this thing comes out of this thing, and now this thing comes out of this, and this. Now, we've added it like Legos. Like, there was this, and then we added this other block. And then we added this other block, and that somehow or another, humanity steps out completely separate from anything else. It's just not true. You can do a blood transfusion with coconut water. People are getting heart transplants now with pigs' hearts. When you look at the stuff of which the body is made, it's stardust. It's the same stuff of the earth. I'm talking about oneness here. I am talking about a radical oneness where we are part of the planet. It's not us out here needing to save the planet. We are the planet. We are the planet. When you mess up the water, you might as well drink gasoline. It's no different. Just like you can't pollute your body system and live, you can't pollute the environment. But it's all one thing. There's a oneness that's there. And if you understand it from the oneness, then your reactions and your responses will be different. What you determine is the problem will be different. When you start with this sense of the oneness, how different would it be if we didn't think that we were made top of the food chain? Because what it actually says in Scripture is that human beings were made as stewards to dress and to keep the garden. You were a gardener. You are a gardener. And we have so misinterpreted that concept of dominion. We were not given dominion to do any old thing to any old body, any old where, just because we want to or we can. We were not given that. I saw the movie Loving last night, which is the story about the couple whose case, Supreme Court case in 1967, became the Supreme Court ruling that overturned all the bans against interracial marriage. So they lived in Virginia. It's a white man and a black woman. And they were very much in love. They went to Washington, D.C. to get married because they couldn't be married in the state of Virginia in the 1950s. And there was a lot of drama, going to jail and all these different things. And basically the court said to them, well, stay your time out of prison, but you got to get out of the state of Virginia for 25 years. So it kept going back and forth and back and forth. So about 10 years later or so, they win this huge, huge case. But the logic of the courts, and this had been the logic for segregation all over the world, was this notion that somehow God created different races of people and put them on different continents for a reason. And that to intermarry was a mongrelization of the races. It's just not true. There were not different people put on different continents by God. Take a breath. Take a big breath here now. All of us are African. Breathe. Breathe again. All of us have our roots in Africa. 3/4 of human civilization was on the continent of Africa. You can do the DNA traces all the way back. We all come from the same stuff. There weren't even all these different continents. That stuff split later. And yes, there's a little something to that, to the extent of recognizing that there are different people who look different ways on different continents, but that's because of the weather. It ain't that deep. If it's hot, you need darker skin for protection. You don't need long, straight hair. You need something kinky to keep the sun off your scalp. It's not that deep. You don't need a hairy back. You ain't seen no hairy Africans. You don't need a wool coat, because it's hot. Now you go up to Siberia, you need a fur coat. A permanent attached fur coat. Because it's cold. Ain't that deep? These so-called characteristics that we make such a big deal out of about race, DNA-wise, account for less than 1/1000% of our DNA. Which is why we can exchange body parts with each other. And blood and everything else, because it ain't that deep. There's a oneness that's here. And while I'm going for it, let me just go for it again. This idea that God created males and females exclusively ain't true. It's just not true. For the first 6 weeks after conception, it's neutral. Absolutely neutral. It can swing either way. Literally. It is about the 6-week mark. It's split-second timing here about how much testosterone is going to be released. And if it doesn't, it's going to be female. But it's the same tissue. It's the exact same stuff. Male, female genitalia is from the exact same stuff, just shaped a little different. And quiet is kept, 1 in 2,000 births has something of what they call ambiguous genitalia, or what we call intersex. That's a lot of people, baby. 1 in 2,000 somehow have some kind of combination between the two. We actually don't know what any of us are really in terms of the XY chromosome mixture. I'm telling the truth here. We are all very interesting combinations of male and female. We all have both. We have both sets of hormones within us. And quiet is kept, if we didn't spend billions of dollars on cosmetics, we wouldn't look all that different. If we didn't spend billions of dollars on haircut and makeup and removal and pumping iron and shaping and sculpting our bodies and all the rest of that, you know what? I remember a conversation I had back in LA. And I was talking to this friend of mine who did professional drag. And I remember him saying to me once, he said, "Oh, baby, everybody's in drag." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Most people are trying to create the illusion of being this sex or the other sex." He said, "They're busy trying to create that." And just as a side, he said something else that really struck me. I asked him, I said, "Why is it that you see more males doing female drags than females doing male drag?" And you know what he told me? He said, "Most women don't take up enough space to imitate a man." And he just did like this. He said, "It's much easier," he did like that, "to bring yourself in and constrict." He said, "To be a man, boom, they would have to take up more space." I remember that. I started taking up more space. I did. I don't know why I feel like Facebook is going to have a field day with this one. The drama that we do around all the so-called differences, it's fictitious. It's not really there. And we get to choose. So there's a series that I've been doing for such a time as this. And we're still doing it. We're still doing it on Mondays. It's at noon. Anybody can drop in. You can Zoom, look on Facebook or our website, and you can get the link, or you can drop in here. And it's all about getting to oneness. Like, what is this that we need to do to get there? And I gave people this assignment between the election and Thanksgiving, and I actually did a little clip of it, and it's on our Facebook now. I think like 3 or 4 minutes version there. And what I said is, you believe in oneness or you don't. And if you really want the oneness, then you have to be willing to make the first move. And I have been saying that underneath it all, that our biggest challenges is around supremacy. That's the thing that we have to get over. The idea that human beings have supremacy over the planet and all the other people, that there are people within human beings, races that have supremacy over others, that males have supremacy over females. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. This notion of supremacy, that America has supremacy over all the other countries, that Christians have supremacy over all the other religions, that citizens have supremacy over undocumented people. It's over and over and over. The issue that we really have to get to is that sense of supremacy. And I am telling you, when you get to that point where you feel like you don't want to be one with somebody, you're being a supremacist. Just breathe that in. Because underneath it, what you're really saying is, I'm too good to be like them. Or they're not good enough to be like me. Supremacy. And the problem here is not, will the real, true supremacist stand up? Who really has the right to be the supremacist? It's the construct of it at all. Because as long as it stays there for one thing, it's there for anything. And if you don't like other people standing, then don't get in it yourself. You got real quiet. Breathe. Do I have to be one with them? Is supremacy. So you got a choice. You either knock yourself down a couple of notches, you knock them up a couple of notches, or you do both. So what I told the people to do in my training, I said, if you really, really believe this stuff, here's what I want you to do. I said, because it works something like this. I can assure you that the people who have been studying with me, oh, they voted blue. I'm pretty sure of that. There may be other people listening, but I'm fairly sure because of the comments of the people in the room, they voted blue. I said, but here's the thing. Your friends know you voted blue. But you got friends that voted red. They don't know you know they voted red. Relatives, and they're scared to death of the rift, the estrangement, and there's this little dance that's going on. But they're the same friends and relatives and neighbors and co-workers that you had the Monday before the election as they were the Wednesday after. Is your love so conditional? Is your love so conditional that you will withdraw it? Because that means you're doing this. I'm not loving like this. I got to do this around you. Is it worth shrinking in your love so that somebody else doesn't get it? This is what Jesus was saying. You're going to hide your light under a bushel so your neighbor doesn't get your light? So I said, I want you to be brave. I said, if there are very specific people that you know, I want you to reach out first. And I want you to say, you know what? It's been a really contentious election. I'm not sure how you voted. Pretty sure you know how I voted. But I want you to know is that I love you anyway. And if and when you ever feel safe enough, I'm willing to listen to who you are and where you were coming from. I said, don't do it if you don't mean it. I said, now the willing to listen part, that's a bonus. I want you to get there. Or you can put it all on your Facebook or whatever. Hey, y'all, I know it's been tough. I love you anyway. Mean it. You might add, and don't even tell me. That's my boundary so I can stay in love. That's fine too. But it's the choice to stay in oneness. Are you with me? It is the choice to stay in oneness. Let's not be divisive. And I'm going to end on this. So many of you were aware, I mentioned last Sunday, that I was leaving to do a memorial service for Luke Smith, who was the 15-year-old who was fatally shot by the sheriff's department here. It's been on the news, all the details of that, and I don't have to go into all of that. But there's a lot of energy about that now, particularly since the video is out and it's on YouTube. Raises a lot of questions. There are all kind of meetings and things, and I'm pleased to say that the DA, the sheriff's department, the family, everybody's been in touch. And I've been having some really good conversations here or there. And what I want you to know, just like I have been saying about the election, there is opportunity here. If we do not split, if we do not become divisive, if we do not become overly antagonistic towards each other, we have an opportunity to make some really good change. Okay? I've been talking about reform in the judicial system, in the prison system for a very long time. It's something that's very near and dear to my heart. And I have been saying over and over again that it is supremacist mentality that allows it to continue. And in our name. So we've been locking up all these people for life, supposedly in our name to protect us, yes? And that the question isn't, are they so bad they should be locked up? But are we so special and supreme that other people should be locked up supposedly to protect us? Do you feel the difference in that question? Okay? There's something similar that's happening here that's even beyond the particular of Luke Smith's life, as wonderful as that was. But in a sense of oneness, what kind of community do we want to have here? I know what's happening around the nation. I know the militarization that's happening of the police departments and of the correction facilities. I know that. But we have an opportunity in this community to say, not here. We have an opportunity to say that I don't care what's going on. Particularly if somebody else doesn't have a gun, nobody should be shot with a military defense AR-7 at point blank range here. I'm not saying don't have the weapons. I'm not saying that. We're right here on the coast. Who knows? I could imagine if there was really some big terrorist evasion or whatnot. You know, I get that. But I am talking about on our streets. I'm talking about with each other. This is not anything against the sheriff's department. I am saying that we as a people have to speak up, and we as a people have to come to the oneness to say that we are all citizens together and nobody's life is expendable. to save mine. All life is valuable. All life is valuable. I lied, I got one more thing to say on that. So I was watching this comedian. I don't even remember his name. I think it was like Michael Che or something like that. And he was doing a spoof on Black Lives Matters. And he was talking about how nervous everybody gets when they say that, as though nobody else's life matters. He said, why can't Black lives matter? Why? Because they haven't. I mean, historically, so what's wrong with affirming that? And then he said, not doing that would be kind of like your wife comes to you and says, honey, do you love me? Well, I love everybody. Everybody's got my love. I'm just going to let it sit right there. Let us pray. Let us pray.